I'm Cody, and this is Genesis Arms. We manufacture the world's best shotgun, the Gen 12. Genesis Arms was born out of an idea of simply putting a 12 gauge into an AR-10 platform. The improved ergonomics and manual of arms that AR-15s have demonstrated over the last several decades since its inception, being obviously adopted in every military, and also just the manual of arms being on most future weapon systems, whether it's just the magazine design, the magazine release, the bolt release. All of those features is what really captivates the usability and the adoptability for end users. It's an ease of use. And the shotgun, if you look at it as a legacy system, you can take a picture of a shotgun from 1960s and put a photo of a shotgun today, and if it's tube-fed magazine, ultimately they're going to look pretty much the same. Well, the Gen 12 revolutionizes that idea and changes the way shotguns are for the future. The origins behind it was inspiration from Eugene Stoner. Now that's no simple feat, because there's a legacy behind that. Because it's Eugene Stoner, he's the godfather of all modern weapon systems today, because of those features that we just talked about. So we take that responsibility high to do his legacy honor, because if we do it poorly, that's going to be bad on his designs and ours. So if you go back in time and you look at the AR-15, that was an Armalite 15 patent. But before that, there was the AR-10, which was a 308. And the founders of the company, Theodore and his other partners at the time, they found out that the 12-gauge shell fit in the magazine well of an AR-10. So they said, well, how hard is that going to be? We'll just build a magazine. And then they said, well, how are we going to make this thing cycle? And sitting on the shelf, like we have here, is the AR-17. This beauty right here is the golden gun that Eugene Stoner put together. It's called the AR-17. What's really cool about this is, I believe it was in the 60s when this came out, there's only 3,000 of these made. It's exceptional for the time. It's aluminum barrel, aluminum receiver. This is injection plastic molded parts where traditionally you'd see a lot of wood. This thing is lightweight, but the unique thing about this was this. It's a short recoil operated shotgun. Now it was designed for sporting purposes, so it only holds one in the chamber and one below for trap. But this is where it started. The Gen 12 is ultimately an AR-17 and AR-10 put together. And that's why we say we stand on the shoulders of a giant, Eugene Stoner, and he inspired everything behind what we do today, and we want to hold his legacy in high regard and do service for all future shotguns. And we imagine that if Eugene Stoner was standing here today, he would look at the Gen 12 and he would say, shotguns are great again. This was the beginning of the Gen 12. This is the very first iteration. This is our Gen 1 of the gun. It was an 18-inch barrel. At the time, M-LOK wasn't even out to the market space. And so this is actually threaded for MOE from Magpul. Came with an A2 grip and a fixed stock. So very traditional looking for the time that it was designed. And it had the moving and reciprocating barrel, which you still find on our current system now. But where this started and where it's ended, it's a much different system. Obviously, we've shortened things down to 5-inch barrels. We have suppressors, and we've been able to revolutionize the system for its performance and capabilities so that this system at a 5-inch barrel is able to do that which an 18-inch barrel does. We often get asked, what's the origin of our name, Genesis Arms? Our principal founder, Theodore, is a devout Christian. As a Christian-based company, Christian values are important to us. And it's awesome to know that in the founding and the beginning of the company that the name itself was inspired by the Bible and that faith. It also holds a secondary meaning, which is that it is a beginning. It is the beginning of a new time for shotguns. Shotguns are changing, and we are that catalyst to change. The battle space in the world is changing as well. So war is changing, and shotguns are showing that they're more important today than they've ever been. The manual of arms of legacy systems like tube-fed shotguns simply don't offer the adaptability or adoptability that the Gen 12 provides for the future. So we are on a dawn of a new age. We are at the beginning of a transformation. Genesis Arms was founded in 2014, but really Genesis Arms as a product for the commercial space didn't happen until several years later. The prototyping and the development was arduous. It was a challenge for sure. The magazine design was one of the key things in that. Even just getting from a 5-round magazine to a higher capacity magazine of a 10-round magazine, that took substantial time and development. That honestly seemed like a straight uphill, and there was no end to it. And not even a hill, it was really a cliff. But in the end, after many years and many revisions, we were able to bring to the market a 10-round magazine. And that really was when the weapon shifted, because we had reliable feeding and also capacity. And we noticed right then that we started getting more interest in the professional space. So really for us as a company, the transition was probably close to 10 years to go from our Gen 1 model to what everybody is used to seeing as our Gen 12. And that shift really became pivotal for us because we were asked to build a breaching shotgun for a federal agency. And with my background in law enforcement and military, you know, for me to be the face of the company and what most people associate as Genesis Arms, even though I'm not the founder and I'm not the one behind the design, because of the role of being able to say this is what it can do, and having been that person to do some of those tasks, it was a large responsibility to ensure that the Gen 12 was a system that I would be confident in to go into an unpermissive environment, non-permissive environment, or to be deployed overseas with and know that when I pick it up, it's going to function and be as reliable as my combat rifle or my combat pistol. I wanted the Gen 12 to be exactly that. So obviously with my input from experience and also the demand that Theodore and his team put together, we built the ultimate shotgun, the Gen 12, and was officially adopted in 24 by the federal agency as the first ever magazine-fed shotgun for a federal contract. The Gen 12 entered the professional space under our federal contract for breaching. However, at the time, the TTPs, or the tactics, trainings, and procedures for that unit, was still based on a compact tube-fed shotgun. So they were stuck in the idea that they had to carry a shotgun as a tool, as a secondary weapon system, in conjunction to their primary system, which is generally a rifle. So one of the things that we've talked about as a company, because of the adaptability of the system, the fact that you can put suppressors on it, you can have it configured in different lengths, it can be more compact, and the adaptability lends itself to more than just a breaching tool, more than just a combat tool. And in this case, for the professional user, the conversation is all about counter UAS and being able to fight drones, because that's the frontier in the battle space. So the Gen 12 allows you to have a system to be a single multi-purpose platform. So even when you look at breaching, for example, whether it's like the system here, a 5-inch suppressed PDS, which has the ability to have a compact stock collapse down in a very compact way. You could carry this without the night vision and everything else as a secondary system. However, because it allows the use of switchology and modern aiming lasers and optics, this can now become a primary system to where you can breach and fight all in one platform. So there's no more need to make it a transition from tool to weapon, because it can be utilized as both. Now, the only caveat in that is ammo development. And I can assure you that we are strongly advancing that space next, because it is the limiting factor at the moment. But there are options out there. They are few, but there are options out there where you can have a breaching round, also be a frangible slug, so it can be used for breaching and near peer. Now, when it comes to counter UAS, that's a different system, because now you're talking about patterning and getting greater distance. So the demand from the end user request is, I don't want a 24-inch barrel with a shotgun that measures almost 5 feet in length. I want a compact weapon system. And even more importantly, if that compact weapon system can do more than one role, whether it's subterranean or CQB, and it can be a counter-UAS system, then that would be even more ideal. So that's something that we've spearheaded and we've actually pushed out into development, which is our MCS. Here's the MCS. This is the multi-purpose combat shotgun, Gen 12. This is the pinnacle of what we do today for our end users. This is pretty close to what you would get in a commercial product today. The major features that are different is the muzzle interface. This allows for a quick disconnect of the device using a thread and taper lock system that most people are used to within the AR-15 market. But we can go from blast can to a choke or to a suppressor, and it's all done at an end user level. This option is important to the end user because it's able to be delivered in a much more compact system. Traditional shotguns have longer barrels, and when it comes to fighting drones, for example, or even as a combat shotgun, you have a longer barrel because your tube magazine extends underneath the barrel. So if you shorten the barrel too much, you limit the capacity on the system. Because we utilize a magazine system, we can do anything on the front end of this, and it's not going to affect your capacity. So when it comes to fighting drones, for example, and you think you need a 24-inch barrel, which you don't. You're also doing that because you're already going to put a maximum amount of rounds underneath that barrel to fight that threat. Well, what we found is, for example, comparing our systems, a 10.5-inch barrel suppressed to a 24-inch barrel, traditional tube-fed shotgun, we were maintaining the same patterns as the 24-inch barrel, but we did it from a 10.5-inch. That's significant because now the end user doesn't need to worry about overall length. Being able to have a system to be one tool, everything from breaching to fighting and then going to the sky, that is what an end user would want. They don't want to have to carry a second boat anchor on their back or a flag or whatever. They want one system to be able to do it all. And that's what the Gen 12 offers, the professional space. I wish I could take credit for coining the phrase that the Gen 12 is the ultimate shotgun, but I can't because it came from our customers. When we first started as a company, I would field all the customer service calls, and I had one customer reach out and call and say, hey, I've bought every single magazine-fed shotgun there is. I just need to know that yours is going to work. And I told him, absolutely, because we stand behind our product, quality assured, performance guaranteed. And he said, okay, I'm going to take a leap of faith and I'm going to buy it. And the customer bought it. And he called me back, obviously, at some time later and said, thank you, because it's doing exactly what you said it would, and that's perform. It being the ultimate shotgun, it obviously creates it on a pedestal. And I'm not saying that we're perfect, but we do it a lot better than everybody else. And it is through intention and deliberate choices on performance. We don't compromise. So feeding is important. We had to create a magazine. A lot of people think that it's easy to make a magazine. Frankly, it's probably one of the hardest things to do on a weapon system, and it's the heart and soul of that system. So if your magazine is poor, it's going to be riddled with problems, malfunctions, feeding issues, extraction, you name it. All those can be caused by a poor magazine design. So we challenged ourselves, obviously, to do that, and right now we do stand as the best magazine-fed shotgun on the planet when it comes to feeding and reliability. The traditional MK1919 magazines, we originally looked at it as a company, but because of the inherent issues within those magazines, the weapon system of the Gen 12 would stay a novelty toy, and we didn't want that. We wanted this to be the first professional-grade semi-auto magazine-fed shotgun, and the magazine was a key point to that. So the second part of that is the short recoil operation. Initially, when it was conceived to create a short recoil operated shotgun in an AR-10 platform, it was really to manage gas in a way that's already been done. The inherent advantage of that only later revealed themselves. So we don't have the issues of dwell time that's inherent within a gas piston or a direct impingement system. The other thing is that you're battling not just gas, but because you're shooting a shot cup, you're also battling gases which have plastic and lead in them, and that you're just not going to see in a centerfire cartridge. So having a gas system which is operated closed essentially with no leaking of the gas from the barrel itself, we were able to optimize and make the Gen 12 function with a barrel as short as 5 inches. Now, I can say this, that when Theodore originally sat down at the beginning, he did not think that we'd be making a 5-inch barrel. But through time and evolution of the product, we've been able to make those evolutionary changes and push the bounds of what a shotgun can do. Quality control. We say often, well, I like to say, that the Gen 12 is something that is built of quality. We often hear customers when they pick it up at the gun shop or when we're out on demo, when they pick it up, they go, this feels good. It's kind of hard to put into words because there's a relationship of feel that comes from the Gen 12. When we put our R&D at hand to do the quality that people are expecting from our system, there's lots of man hours from computer design to material selection to round count. And honestly, that's where most of the decision making happens. We're talking tens of thousands of rounds that go through these guns prior to them being put out into the production floor. We know intimately what the recoil is going to feel like, how the patterning is going to happen, what accuracy standard you should be able to have, and we hold those to the highest standards we can. So quality control, we don't shortcut anything. We demand the best out of our parts, our supply line, and also our staff in-house holds those same values to guarantee the quality is assured when you get it, which ultimately leads itself to the guarantee of the performance of a Gen 12. Primarily, GenesisArms has been a direct-to-consumer company. That's how we were able to build a base as a company, and that's from the consumer. And we'll never forget that, because if it wasn't for the consumer and the early adopters of the Gen 12, we really wouldn't be in the position that we are today. But with expansion and growth, obviously, we've had a lot of inquiries from our dealer networks. And we are very picky about who we select to be a dealer. It comes down to several factors when we choose a dealer. Dealers need to be an extension of GenesisArms. They need to be as enthusiastic about the product as we are. They also need to be intimate with it. So generally, we found that the best dealers that we select are the ones that are aggressive and that they want to move the product. And frankly, when they get them, it's not difficult for them to move them because there's already a base out there of people who desire to get it and maybe have only seen it on Instagram, and so they're excited to see it hit the shelves for dealers. Once we got our dealer network established, some of the great stories is that the dealers complain about how fast they move off the shelf, which is great. It just means that consumers are sharing their experience with other people, with their friends, their family, and ultimately they're making the decision to go and purchase either from that dealer or another. So dealers also really appreciate the fact that we do build a quality product. Obviously, like I've mentioned, we're not free from issues, but we stand by the product and our customer service is on point. And so dealers appreciate our ability to service our customers, their customers, and do it in a timely and efficient way. And we hold great pride in being able to execute that for all of those that support us. It's important for GenesisArms to be an American-made product. If you look at small arms development, America is the inspiration for most small arms or weaponry, honestly, in the world. And being American-made, there's pride that goes with that. The flag represents something. The United States of America is a beacon for others. And we want to support the Americans and build our community. And we do that by not sending our products to other countries, whether it's Turkey or Mexico, to be manufactured outside our borders. We proudly have a higher priced item, but that's because it is 100% made in America. That is through our vendor selection, our material selection. We're supporting other American companies that are in the same struggle of challenging price versus production and availability in the market space. It's not an easy choice. A lot have made those decisions to go elsewhere, whether it's Asia or other countries to reduce manufacturing costs. But that's a bottom line decision. We're not going to compromise on that. We're American made and we're proud to be. The Gen 12 is born out of an idea. You know, our founder, Theodore, and principal owner of the company, he was born in Romania. He was born into communism. And I got to be honest, when he talks about it, it gets real passionate real fast. Because once you lived in communism, you understand how great it is to live in America and be part of the red, white, and blue. Second Amendment, it's not a privilege, it's a right. And it's a right that has been taken away through people who wish to change our culture, to change our origin story as a nation. And frankly, the 2A community is the advocate and the backbone of freedom. If we lose our Second Amendment, we definitely will lose our First. Genesis Arms is proud to be able to provide not just professional end users a product that will defend them against evil, but also to provide a Gen 12 to you, the consumer, the patriot, the mother, the father, and someday maybe even the warfighter as they grow up from children to men. Genesis Arms greatly appreciates all 2A advocates and also our patriots that continue to participate in the Second Amendment by spending their dollars where they believe it should go. For me personally, one of the core values here that's exuded in our product delivery and the way that we conduct business at Genesis Arms, it's not compromising. Not compromising the quality, not compromising performance, and being relentless in the pursuit of the next best thing. We won't compromise on a lot of things, and frankly, neither should you, which is why I do what I do at Genesis Arms and aim to Gen 12 the world with America's shotgun. Now, what is something that we're excited about? Well, that's going to be this guy right here. This is a custom build. We did this as a SHOT Show experience. So this is chocolate chip. It's on our 13-inch barrel length. Comes with a B5 grip, and it's a throwback to the old days. Nice A2 stock, iron sights, carrying handle, and suppressor. Can't tell you where it's going to be coming, but it's coming soon. All right, top 3 products for Genesis Arms in the Gen 12 lineup. It's going to be our 5-inch PDS, our 10-inch SBS, and more known as the popular John Wick 4, which would be the Dracarys collab with Terran Tactical, and was actually featured in the film John Wick 4. This one's outfitted with an accessory of the Huxworks can, which is growing to be the most popular 12-gauge suppressor on the market. It was an easy decision for Genesis Arms to align themselves with Credova, principally based on the company core values, which is the right to bear arms and freedom for the purchase of those. One of the primary or principal benefits that Credova offers our customers is the ability to have privacy in the purchase. With credit card services threatening to track or create a registry or a ledger and report those to some unknown authority when it comes to sporting purposes or sporting goods like ammunition and firearms, you never have to worry about that with Credova. Credova simply is not going to do that. They don't do it today, and they would never do it in the future. So you get the privacy and security of knowing your transaction is private. How has Credova changed the way our customers shop? Well, it provides flexibility. You know, we aren't a entry-level product for the space in shotguns. We are a higher tiered option for users, and so it provides them flexibility. So whether that's, you know, splitting up some cash down and then using Credova for the remaining balance, or purchasing for the full amount all through Credova, gives the flexibility to get into the weapon system today. As an American-based company and proud to be made in America, it's important that Americans are able to have access to our system. So Credova's ability to have flexible payment options provides that access to our customer base, whether that's at the dealers or through our website. And we want to make sure our weapon systems, our Gen 12s, are available to you and you have access to them. If you're making the selection to use Credova on checkout, the best part about it is how easy and flexible it is. So you're going to have 3 to 5 minutes on most transactions to get approved. So it's not going to extend. You don't have to wait days to get an approval. It's going to be part of the checkout process. So 3 to 5 minutes and you're in the checkout. What you can expect when you pick up a Gen 12 for the first time. One, it's how it feels. It just feels good. The lines are aesthetically pleasing, but more importantly, are you going to want to shoot it? Is it going to become the go-to shotgun in your inventory to go to the range with? Well, I can guarantee it will be. Our customers on average, instead of going to the shotgun range to shoot under 100 rounds because their shoulder can't withstand any more abuse, they show up with 250 rounds and they enjoy it. Which is why I like to say, to hear is to doubt, to see is be deceived, but to feel is to believe. We're Genesis Arms. We've challenged the narrative of what shotguns are and what they can be. And we're laying the bricks to a new road to show the future capability of shotguns, 12 gauge, and we're putting the Gen 12 in the history books as the next innovative shotgun for the future.